The drill broke through the rock at exactly 1447 Galactic Standard Time. Foreman Kethval felt the vibration change through the metal floor of the control room. After 30 years of mining on dead worlds, he knew when something was wrong. "Stop the drill," he ordered. His workers, all of them insectoid Velthari like himself, looked at him with confusion. They were 300 meters below the surface of Kethro 7, a planet so boring that even pirates ignored it. Nothing interesting ever happened here. That was why the mining consortium had chosen it. "Sir, we are on schedule. The consortium will not be happy if we delay," said his assistant. Kethaval clicked his mandibles in annoyance. "I said stop the drill. Something is down there." The machines fell silent. In the quiet that followed, every Velthari in the control room heard it. A deep humming sound, so low it was almost below their hearing range. It was coming from below them. "Run a full scan," Kethaval ordered. "I want to know what we just hit." The scan results came back in seconds. What they showed made no sense. The computer was reporting a metallic object beneath them. That was normal. They often found old satellites or crashed ships, but this object was 12 kilometers long. "That cannot be right," Kethaval said. "Run it again." They ran it again. The results were the same. 12 kilometers of metal buried 300 meters below the surface. Too symmetrical to be natural. Too large to be anything they had ever seen. Kethval made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. He called his superiors. His superiors called their superiors. Within 6 hours, the first scientists arrived on Kethro 7. Director Shelvos was the highest-ranking Velthari in the mining consortium. She had seen many strange things in her career: ancient temples, dead cities, the bones of species that had vanished millions of years ago. But she had never seen anything like this. "It is a ship," said Dr. Vren, the lead xenoarchaeologist. He was a Mathoni, a species known for their calm logic. Right now, he did not look calm. "A very large ship." "Whose ship?" Shelvos asked. Dr. Vren did not answer immediately. He was looking at the scan results on his tablet, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "We need to access the Forbidden Archives." Shalvos felt cold. The Forbidden Archives contained information about one thing only. One species. A species that the galaxy had tried very hard to forget. "You cannot be serious," she said. "The design matches nothing in our current databases," Dr. Vrin explained. "The metal composition is unlike anything we use today, but it matches exactly with records from 800 years ago. Records of their ships." He did not say the name. He did not need to. Everyone in the room knew who he was talking about. Humans. The word spread quickly, even though they tried to keep it secret. Within days, ships from the Galactic Collective began arriving in orbit around Kethro 7. Scientists, politicians, military officers. Everyone wanted to see the impossible thing buried beneath the surface. They set up a base camp above the buried ship. Hundreds of workers began the slow process of digging down to the hull. It took 2 weeks to clear enough rock to see the metal surface beneath. It was black, pure black, like the space between stars, and it was covered in writing. Dr. Vren was the first to translate the symbols. His hands were shaking when he showed the results to Director Shelvos. "Erebus," he said. "That was the name of a human god, a god of darkness." Shelvos looked at the massive black hull stretching out before them. "How fitting." More scans revealed the terrible truth. The ship was not damaged. It had not crashed. It had been buried on purpose, hidden beneath the rock like a seed waiting to grow. And according to their instruments, its reactor was not dead. It was sleeping. "We should leave," said one of the scientists. "We should leave right now and never come back." But it was already too late for that. On the 3rd week, as teams worked to find an entrance to the hull, something changed. The humming sound that Foreman Kethaval had heard grew louder. Lights began to appear on the black surface. Small at first, then larger. Red and blue and white. Blinking in patterns that looked almost like breathing. "Everyone back!" Dr. Vren shouted. "Get everyone away from the hull!" The workers ran. Some of them did not run fast enough. A blast of hot air shot from vents along the ship's surface, throwing equipment and people dozens of meters away. The ground shook so hard that the base camp collapsed. From her shuttle in orbit, Director Shalvos watched in horror as more and more lights appeared on the buried ship. After 800 years, the Erebus was waking up. "Send a message to the Galactic Collective," she ordered her communications officer. "Tell them we have a situation. Tell them the humans are back." The officer's hands were shaking so badly that he could barely type. "What exactly should I say, Director?" Shalvos thought about the history she had learned as a child. The stories of the war, the stories of what humans could do when they were angry, the stories of why the galaxy had worked so hard to destroy them. "Tell them to prepare," she said. "Tell them to prepare for everything." Deep below the surface of Kethra 7, inside the waking giant, systems that had been silent for centuries came back to life. Computers began running checks. Engines began warming up. Weapons began their startup sequences. And in a small room at the very heart of the ship, 48 pods of frozen glass began to glow with soft blue light. The humans were not dead. They had been waiting. And now their wait was over. Captain Yuki Tanaka woke up screaming. This was normal. The cryogenic pods were designed to wake their occupants quickly, and quick was never comfortable. Her lungs burned as they filled with air for the first time in centuries. Her muscles cramped. Her eyes refused to focus. But she was alive. That meant the plan had worked. "Captain Tanaka," said a calm voice from the speakers above her, "please remain still. Your body needs time to adjust." "Prometheus," she croaked. Her throat felt like sandpaper. "Status report. You have been in cryogenic sleep for 783 years, 4 months and 12 days, the artificial intelligence replied. "All 48 crew members are being revived successfully. The ship is at 82% operational capacity." Yuki forced herself to sit up despite the pain. Around her, other pods were opening. Men and women gasped and coughed as they returned to life. Some of them cried, some of them laughed. All of them looked as confused as she felt. "Why did you wake us?" she asked. "What triggered the revival protocol?" "Alien life forms have breached the outer hull," Prometheus said. "I determined this constituted a threat requiring human decision-making." Yuki closed her eyes. So they had been found. After all these centuries, after all the effort to hide, someone had dug them up. "Are they hostile?" she asked. "Unknown. They appear to be scientists and miners. However, I have intercepted communications indicating that military forces are being mobilized. The Krethax Dominion has dispatched a battle group to this location. Estimated arrival time is 4 hours." The Krethax. Yuki remembered them well. She remembered the burning colonies. She remembered the death camps. She remembered the final broadcast from Earth as the Krethax and their allies turned the blue planet into a ball of fire. She had been there. She had watched it happen. For her, it had only been a few years ago. "Help me up," she said to the nearest crewman. "We have work to do." The crew of the Erebus gathered in the main command center. They were soldiers and engineers, scientists and pilots. They had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might never wake up. Now they stood in their ancient uniforms, looking at screens that showed them a galaxy they no longer recognized. 800 years, whispered Lieutenant Chen, the navigation officer. "Everything we knew is gone." "Not everything," Yuki said. "We are still here. The Erebus is still here. And apparently so are the people who tried to kill us all." She pulled up a map of the galaxy on the main screen. Prometheus had spent the centuries monitoring communications, gathering data, learning everything it could about the universe outside. What it had learned was both encouraging and terrifying. The Krethax Dominion still existed. So did the Vorn hegemony and the Silithar conclave. The three powers that had united to destroy humanity had thrived in the centuries since. They had built empires on the ashes of human civilization, but they had not united against anyone else. They had spent the last 8 centuries fighting each other, competing for resources, growing fat and lazy. They had forgotten how to fight a real war. "They think we are extinct," Yuki said. "They divided up our territory and celebrated their victory. They probably think the universe is safe now." "What are your orders, Captain?" asked Commander Rodriguez, her second in command. Yuki thought about her family. Her parents had died on Earth. Her sister had died defending Mars. Her nephew, only 5 years old, had died when the Krethax bombed the refugee ships trying to escape. She thought about revenge. It would be easy. The Erebus was the most powerful warship humanity had ever built. It was designed to fight entire fleets by itself. They could cause unimaginable destruction before anyone stopped them. But that was not why they were here. Our mission was to survive, she said, to preserve humanity so that we could one day return. That mission has not changed. We do not attack first. We do not seek revenge. We show the galaxy that humans still exist, and we find out if any others survived. Some of the crew looked disappointed, others looked relieved. All of them nodded in agreement. But, Yuki continued, if they attack us first, we will defend ourselves, and we will make sure they remember why they were so afraid of us. The next 4 hours were busy. The crew ran checks on every system. They prepared weapons and shields. They accessed the data that Prometheus had collected and learned about the galaxy they would soon face. Prometheus also told them about the aliens currently on the planet's surface, scientists and miners, mostly Velhari, who had found the Erebus by accident. They were not enemies. They were just curious. Do not harm them, Yuki ordered. When we rise, let them go. At exactly the moment Prometheus had predicted, sensors detected ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. 12 of them. Krethax warships, bristling with weapons, their hulls painted with the symbols of the Dominion. They are hailing us, said the communications officer. On screen, Yuki said. A face appeared on the main display. It was reptilian, covered in green scales with eyes like yellow fire. A Krethax commander wearing the medals of a species that had never lost a war. Attention, unknown vessel, the commander said. You are ordered to power down your systems and surrender immediately. Resistance will result in your destruction. Yuki smiled. It was not a friendly smile. I am Captain Yuki Tanaka of the Human Defense Force, she said. I do not recognize your authority, and I do not accept your terms. You are advised to withdraw immediately. The Krethax commander stared at her. His scales turned pale. Behind him, she could hear other officers shouting in alarm. That is impossible, the commander whispered. The humans are dead. We killed them all. You were wrong, Yuki said, and now you have a choice. Leave us alone, or learn why your ancestors were right to fear us. The transmission ended. The Krethax ships began charging their weapons. Yuki turned to her crew. Take us up, she ordered. It is time to remind the galaxy who we are. The Erebus began to rise. The ground began to shake at dawn. Director Shalvos was in her shuttle, 2 kilometers above the surface, when she felt it. The whole planet seemed to tremble. On the screens in front of her, she watched the impossible happen. The mountains split open. Rock and dirt exploded outward in a massive cloud. Trees that had grown for centuries were thrown into the air like toys. The base camp that her teams had built was swept away in seconds, and through the destruction, something dark and massive began to rise. The Erebus climbed out of its grave like a creature from ancient nightmares. 12 kilometers of black metal, bigger than any ship in the current galactic fleet, pushed through the planet's surface as if the rock was water. Dust and debris fell from its hull in great waterfalls. Lights blazed along its surface, red and blue and white, announcing to the universe that humanity had returned. Shalvos could not speak. She could only stare. All personnel, evacuate immediately, she finally managed to say. Get everyone off the surface, now. But her mining ships were already fleeing. They did not need to be told twice. The pilots pushed their engines to maximum speed, desperate to escape the giant that now hung in the sky above them. The Erebus did not fire on them. It simply rose higher and higher, shaking off the last of the rock and dirt until it cleared the atmosphere and entered space. The Krethax battle group was waiting for it. Commander Zarath Kal had served the Dominion for 40 years. He had fought in a dozen campaigns and won them all. When the order came to investigate the discovery on Kethros 7, he had not been worried. The humans were dead. Everyone knew that. Whatever was buried on that planet was probably just an old wreck. Now he stared at his view screen and felt something he had not felt in decades. Fear. That ship is larger than our entire fleet combined, his tactical officer reported. I am reading energy signatures beyond anything in our database. Their shields are already active. Their weapons are charging. Open fire, Zrathkal ordered. All ships, open fire now. 12 Krethax warships unleashed everything they had. Plasma beams cut through space. Missiles streaked toward their target. Energy weapons that could destroy cities struck the black hull of the Erebus. Nothing happened. The attacks splashed against the human ship's shields like rain against a window. The lights did not even flicker. The Erebus continued to rise, completely ignoring the assault against it. "Increase power to weapons," Zrathkal shouted. "Target their engines. Target their bridge. Target anything." His ships fired again and again. They emptied their ammunition. They drained their power reserves. They gave everything they had. The Erebus just kept coming. On the bridge of the human supercarrier, Captain Tanaka watched the attack with cold eyes. "Damage report," she said. "Shields at 97%, Lieutenant Chen reported. "No hull damage detected. Their weapons cannot penetrate our defenses." "I know," Yuki said. "I wanted them to know too." She looked at the display showing the Krethax fleet. 12 ships, now desperately trying to reload their weapons. 12 ships crewed by members of the species that had burned Earth. 12 ships that could not even scratch her hull. It would be so easy to destroy them. One command, one button, and they would all be dead. Justice for the billions of humans who had died screaming. Justice for her family. But that was not who she was. That was not who humanity was. "Prometheus," she said. "Are they transmitting this battle?" "Yes, Captain. Their communications have been hacked. This engagement is being broadcast to every major news network in the galaxy. Current estimated viewership is 47 billion. 47 billion aliens, watching to see what the humans would do. Watching to see if the old stories were true." "Good," Yuki said. "Let them watch this." She pressed a button on her command chair. "Attention, Krethax fleet. This is Captain Tanaka. You have attacked my ship without reason. You have failed to damage us. I will now demonstrate what happens when we decide to fight back." On the screen, she selected a single target. The Krethax Dreadnought, the largest ship in their fleet, the pride of their navy. "Target their reactor," she ordered. "One shot, main cannon." The Erebus shuddered slightly as its primary weapon fired. A beam of white light, so bright it hurt to look at, crossed the distance between the ships in less than a second. The Krethax Dreadnought exploded. There was no fire, no debris floating in space. The ship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next moment it was atoms scattered across the void. Commander Zrathkal watched his flagship die. 3,000 crew members gone in an instant. The most powerful ship in his fleet, erased like it had never existed. "Retreat," he whispered. Then louder, "All ships, retreat! Get us out of here!" The remaining 11 Krethax vessels turned and fled. They activated their faster-than-light drives and vanished, leaving behind only the expanding cloud of particles that had once been their dreadnought. The Erebus did not pursue them. Captain Tanaka leaned back in her chair and took a deep breath. Her hands were shaking slightly, not from fear, but from the effort of holding back. "That was a warning shot," she said, knowing that billions of aliens were listening. "We did not start this war 800 years ago. We did not ask to be attacked. We did not ask to be hunted to extinction, but we survived. And now we have a message for the galaxy." She paused, letting the silence stretch. "We are not here for revenge. We are not here to conquer. We are here because this is our home too, and you cannot make us disappear. Leave us alone, and we will leave you alone. Attack us, and you will learn why your ancestors built weapons like the Erebus." She ended the transmission. Around her, the bridge crew sat in silence. They had just changed the galaxy forever. Nothing would ever be the same. "Prometheus," Yuki said quietly, "begin searching for other human survivors. Check the coordinates in our database. See if any of the other contingency ships made it." "Yes, Captain," the AI replied. "Initiating search protocols." Yuki looked out the view screen at the stars. Somewhere out there, she hoped, other humans were waiting. Other survivors who had hidden from the genocide. Other ships buried on forgotten worlds. She would find them, and together they would build a future. The galaxy had not known true panic in 800 years. Now it remembered what fear felt like. On the Krethax homeworld, citizens rioted in the streets. They demanded answers. They demanded protection. Their government, which had always told them that humans were extinct, had nothing to say. The footage from Kethros 7 played on every screen, over and over. The dreadnought exploding, the black ship rising, the human captain's cold warning. In the Vorn hegemony, the response was different but equally terrified. The Vorn were a species of warriors. They had helped destroy humanity because they believed humans were weak. Now they watched a single human ship defeat 12 warships without taking any damage, and they realized how wrong they had been. The Silithar conclave simply went silent. Their representatives withdrew from all diplomatic meetings. Their ships retreated to their borders. The Silithar had always been the smartest of the three powers. They knew what was coming, and they knew they could not stop it. But the panic was not only among the guilty. Species who had nothing to do with the human extinction event were also afraid. They had grown up hearing stories about humans, stories about their anger, stories about their revenge, stories about how they never forgot an enemy. What would the humans do now? Would they attack everyone, or just the species who had hurt them? No one knew. No one wanted to find out. On the Erebus, Captain Tanaka watched the galaxy's reaction with mixed feelings. "They are afraid of us," Commander Rodriguez said. "All of them." "Good," Yuki replied. "Fear will keep them from attacking us. Fear will give us time." "Time for what?" Yuki pulled up a map on the main screen. It showed dozens of locations scattered across the galaxy, each marked with a small symbol. "Before the end, High Command created contingency plans," she explained. "They knew we might lose the war. They knew the aliens might hunt us to extinction. So they hid things. Ships like the Erebus, buried on remote worlds, sleeper colonies disguised as asteroids, supply stations hidden in nebulae." She pointed to the symbols on the map. "These are the locations we were given. If any other humans survived, they might be at one of these places. We need to find them." The search began immediately. The Erebus traveled from system to system, checking each location in the database. Some were empty, some had been discovered and destroyed centuries ago, but some held hope. On a moon orbiting a gas giant, they found the remains of a sleeper colony. The buildings were old and damaged, but there were signs of recent habitation. Footprints in the dust, empty food containers. Someone had been here recently. On an asteroid in the outer regions of Vorn space, they found a supply station still functioning. Its computers held messages from humans who had stopped there over the centuries. Refugees, survivors, people running from the galaxy that wanted them dead. The messages gave Yuki hope. Humans had survived. They were out there somewhere, hiding, waiting. Then the first transmission arrived. It came on an old military frequency, encrypted with codes that only Earth's Defense Force would know. Prometheus decoded it in seconds. "This is Sanctuary 7, the message said. "We received your broadcast. We have been waiting for 800 years. There are 300 of us here. Please respond." Yuki felt tears forming in her eyes. She had not cried in 8 centuries. She had not allowed herself to feel anything except determination. But now, hearing that human voice, knowing that others had survived, the walls she had built around her heart began to crack. "Respond," she ordered. "Tell them we are coming." More transmissions followed. Sanctuary 12, with 500 survivors. Sanctuary 3, with just 47. A hidden station near the galactic core, where 1,000 humans had built a secret community. But the most surprising messages came from occupied space. "Captain," Lieutenant Chen said one day, his voice strange, "we are receiving transmissions from the Silithar homeworld." "The Silithar?" Yuki frowned. "That cannot be right. Why would humans be there?" "I do not know. But the encryption is correct. These are human signals." The messages told an incredible story. When humanity fell, not everyone had died. Some had been captured, some had hidden, and over 800 years their descendants had survived in the shadows. They worked as servants in alien households. They pretended to be members of other species using disguises and surgery. They kept their true identities secret, passing down the truth only to their children. They had never stopped being human. They had never stopped hating those who had destroyed their civilization. And they had never stopped hoping that one day someone would come for them. "We have operatives in every major government," one message explained. "We have people in military positions, in economic centers, in intelligence agencies. We have been preparing for 800 years. We can help you. Yuki read the messages with growing amazement. Humanity had not just survived, it had infiltrated. For centuries, humans had been living among their enemies, gathering information, building networks, waiting for a signal. The Erebus had given them that signal. Now everything changed. Reports began arriving from across the galaxy. Krethak's military shipments were being sabotaged. Vorn communication networks were experiencing mysterious failures. Silithar politicians were being blackmailed with secrets that should have been impossible to know. The humans in the shadows were waking up. We cannot control this, Commander Rodriguez warned. These people have their own agendas, their own plans for revenge. I know, Yuki said, but they are our people. We cannot abandon them. She made a decision. The Erebus would not fight alone. It would not try to rule the galaxy or destroy its enemies. Instead, it would gather the scattered humans together. It would unite them under one banner. And then they would face the galaxy together. The Krethaks, Vorn, and Silithar saw what was happening. They saw their empires being undermined from within. They saw old enemies rising from the grave. They knew they had to act. An emergency meeting was called. For the first time in centuries, representatives of the three powers sat in the same room. They put aside their differences, their conflicts, their mutual hatred. They had a common enemy now. We must destroy the humans, the Krethak's representative said. All of them, everywhere. Agreed, said the Vorn. We combine our fleets. We hunt them down. We finish what we started 800 years ago. The Silithar representative was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke. We tried that once. We failed. What makes you think this time will be different? No one had an answer, but they would try anyway. The order went out. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. The three great powers of the galaxy would unite one more time. Their target, humanity. Their goal, extinction. And far away on the bridge of the Erebus, Captain Yuki Tanaka received word of the alliance. She smiled. They are coming, she said. Good. Let them come. The alien fleet gathered at Thessic Prime. 2,000 warships from 3 different species filled the space around the Silithar homeworld. It was the largest military force assembled in 8 centuries. Krethak's destroyers flew alongside Vorn battlecruisers. Silithar carriers deployed fighter squadrons by the hundreds. Weapons capable of destroying moons pointed outward, waiting for their target. The admirals were confident. No single ship, no matter how powerful, could survive against such numbers. The humans would come, and the humans would die. History would repeat itself. They did not understand humans at all. Captain Yuki Tanaka stood on the bridge of the Erebus and looked at the star map. The enemy fleet was a cloud of red dots, thousands of them, all gathered in one place. They are making it easy for us, Commander Rodriguez observed. They think numbers will win, Yuki said. They do not understand that we never fight alone. For 6 weeks, the Erebus had traveled across the galaxy. It had visited every sanctuary, every hidden colony, every secret station. It had gathered the survivors of humanity together for the first time since the fall. The result was a fleet. Old human ships emerged from their hiding places. Warships that had survived the genocide, maintained by generations of refugees. Freighters converted into carriers. Mining vessels armed with improvised weapons. Even stolen alien ships, crewed by humans who had lived in secret for centuries. It was not a pretty fleet. It was not a uniform fleet, but it was a human fleet, and it was not alone. In the centuries since humanity's fall, some alien species had remembered the old alliances. The Mathoni had been human friends once. So had the Kelvari and the Teshon. These species had been conquered by the Krethaks and their allies. They had been forced to watch as their friends were slaughtered. They had never forgiven. When word spread that the humans had returned, representatives from these species came to the Erebus. They offered ships. They offered soldiers. They offered everything they had. We waited 800 years for this day, the Mathoni ambassador said. We will stand with you. Now the human fleet jumped into the system around Thessic Prime. The alien alliance saw them coming and opened fire immediately. Space filled with energy beams and missiles and plasma bursts. The Battle of Thessic Prime had begun. The first hour was chaos. Ships exploded on both sides. Fighters swarmed through the battlefield like angry insects. The larger vessels exchanged devastating blows that left whole sections of hull vaporized. The Erebus led the human attack. Its shields absorbed fire from dozens of enemy ships at once. Its weapons carved paths of destruction through the alien formations. Where it flew, enemy vessels died. But even the Erebus could not be everywhere. Human ships fell, ships that had survived for centuries, destroyed in moments. Crews that had dreamed of this day for their entire lives, killed before they could see victory. The humans were fighting well, but they were outnumbered. "We are taking heavy losses," Lieutenant Chen reported. "Enemy reinforcements are arriving from the far side of the planet." Yuki gripped her command chair. This was the moment. Everything depended on what happened next. "Signal the infiltrators," she ordered. "Tell them it is time." Across the Silithar homeworld, humans who had hidden for generations finally revealed themselves. In the main power station, a worker pressed a button and disabled the planetary shields. In the Defense Command Center, an officer opened doors that had been locked for centuries. In the communications hub, a technician broadcast a message to every screen on the planet. The message was simple: surrender. The Silithar government watched in horror as their defenses crumbled from within. Humans were everywhere, in their military, in their government, in their homes. 800 years of infiltration had placed them in every position that mattered. "We cannot fight this," the Silithar Prime Minister said. "We cannot fight enemies we cannot see." In space, the battle continued, but the alien fleet was losing coordination. Orders were not reaching their destinations. Ships were receiving conflicting commands. The humans had not just infiltrated the planets. They had infiltrated the military itself. A Krethax admiral realized too late that half his bridge crew were humans in disguise. A Vorn general found that his communications officer had been feeding information to the enemy for decades. Trust collapsed. The alien alliance began to break apart. "They are retreating," Commander Rodriguez shouted. "The Vorn ships are withdrawing. The Krethax are following." The Silithar fleet, caught between the human attack and their crumbling homeworld defenses, stopped fighting entirely. Their lead admiral broadcast a surrender. Yuki closed her eyes. She thought about her family, her parents, her sister, her nephew, all dead, all victims of the species now begging for mercy. She could destroy them. She could give the order, and the Erebus would burn Thesak Prime to ash. Justice, revenge. 800 years of pain finally answered. But that was not what they had died for. "All ships, cease fire," she ordered. "Accept the surrender. Take prisoners. Treat them humanely." The battle ended not with a bang, but with silence. 10 hours later, Captain Yuki Tanaka walked through the halls of the Silithar government building. Human soldiers escorted her, but they did not need their weapons. The fight was over. The leaders of the three powers waited for her in the main chamber. Krethax, Vorn, and Silithar, sitting together for the first time in centuries, not as allies, but as defeated enemies. Yuki looked at them for a long moment. She thought about all the things she wanted to say, all the anger, all the grief, all the hatred that had burned in her heart for 8 centuries. Then she spoke. 800 years ago, you tried to destroy us. You burned our worlds. You killed our people. You thought you could make us disappear from the universe forever." She paused. "You failed, and now you sit before me, waiting to hear your punishment, waiting for the revenge you deserve." The alien leaders trembled. "But revenge is easy," Yuki continued. "Revenge is what you would do. Revenge is what you did. And look where it brought you." She stepped closer to them. "We are not you. We never were. Humanity did not survive 800 years by being cruel. We survived by being stubborn, by being hopeful, by believing that someday things would be better." She straightened her uniform. "There will be trials. There will be justice. Those who committed crimes will answer for them, but there will be no genocide. There will be no extinction. We will not become the monsters you tried to make us." The Silithar Prime Minister looked up at her with confusion in her eyes. "Why?" she asked. "After everything we did to you, why would you spare us?" Yuki smiled. It was a sad smile, full of old pain and new hope. Because that is what humans do, she said. We remember, we survive, and we try to build something better. 10 years later, the Erebus orbited Earth. The planet below was still scarred. The continents showed the marks of old bombardments. The oceans were smaller than they should have been, but life was returning. Forests were growing in the ruins. Cities were being rebuilt. Admiral Yuki Tanaka stood at her window and watched the first new colony ship launch toward the stars. It carried 10,000 humans, the first generation born entirely after the return. They would not carry the hatred of their parents. They would not remember the genocide. They would only know that humanity had fallen once and risen again. The galaxy had tried to bury them. Humanity had simply refused to stay dead. And now finally the future belonged to everyone.